Today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded September 4th, 2016, and it's a question and answer session with the congregation that we hold twice a year. Come visit us sometime at seasidecenter.org, or you can join us in Encinitas, California, where we always have great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that awaits you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome
Here we go. This is a fun time for me. We do this twice a year. At the beginning of the year, we'll do question and answers, and just before classes, we'll do some question and answers, give you an opportunity to maybe get a sense of what the classes maybe feel like. And it's your service. So I put it out on you. Are there some questions that have been stirring in your soul? Not looking for stories, looking for questions with telescopic brevity. We got some mic runners. Mike, I like that. Michael, Mike, hey, right here. Right, Michael. Courage. That's it. Okay, good one. Courage. That's something that comes from your soul and your spirit. When that something kicks in from a depth of your being you know not whereof, that's God. That's divine. And it's interesting, we're going to do our pledge program this fall and doing it based on the Wizard of Oz. And one of the Sundays will be about courage. So you got to come out and find out how to find that courage. But I think what's important is when there's something inside of you that catches a vision of where you want to go, and you have to step through this invisible membrane of whatever that is, you have to tap into an aspect of your being that's not in the brain, but it's your soul essence. And it's when you choose to go beyond what the brain says or what the body says, and you pull in the essence of your being, that you find the courage to step through that membrane. Or, it could be a physical danger too, but there's something that is able to respond in you that is beyond this world, and that's what courage is. And it's a vibrancy that is always available to be called upon. It's just a lot of times we need to have that fear activated within us, whether it's fear to pay a bill or fear to run from the lion. I don't know. But it comes from an aspect of your being that is not in your body, but who you are is far more than your body. And so there's so much available to you. It's just there's sometimes that which is beyond the physical that needs to be activated. And so for me, it comes from the divine and God. Yes. Right. So, how do those gladiators step into the ring? Well, right. They continue to step into that spot where they've got that blockage, and they realize that once they step through that, it's there. But it's not what you get. You don't get it until you step through it. And so what happens is you learn to activate it by stepping through it, and you'll discover there it is. The Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indiana Jones stepped off the cliff and the bridge was there, but not until he stepped off did he know it was there. Courage is always available to us, but you don't necessarily get it in advance. You may get the kick, that's step off that edge. But what happens is the more you step into that space where courage is needed, you'll come to recognize that it's there for you when you need it. So, you can work on psyching yourself up, courage is available and all that stuff. But, what good is to have that running through your body, if you're not going to use it? Everybody else got to watch out if you the little, Tasmanian devil just tearing everything up, filled with courage when you don't need it. So it's there when you need it, and what happens is you learn to call on it in that moment of need, and what happens is a deeper level of trust that it is there for you when you do it. So. Hey, how's it going, Susan?
Good.
I'm glad.
I have a question.
Okay.
When, like a lot of my family and people I know are Christians.
So am I, Christian. Yeah.
That's right. So I'm a Christian too.
Yeah.
I'm always. But anyway, when people say and ask the question, "Is Jesus our Savior?" How do we answer them?
Okay, good one. Is Jesus our Savior, and how do we answer them? That's funny that we had that same question at the first service. And so just want to touch on that Christianity thing first, and then I'll get to Jesus. But what I like to say, and I've shared it with you before, my pat answer for that, are you Christian? I like to say inclusively, but not exclusively. I absolutely believe in the teachings of Jesus. I absolutely believe in the teachings of love. And so we're inclusively, but not exclusive. We believe that those teachings of Jesus can be found through the great religions. If you're able to drop the dogmas and the creeds, the rules and the regulations, they're all teaching about love. They're all working on that level of understanding. They're all about that support of that heavenly presence. And so are we? Yes, inclusively Christian, just not exclusively, because you'll find words of truth coming from the Tao or from the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads, or, there's many places where the truth shows up. So with that said, are there many saviors for each one of these different philosophies? Well, we're in the West, and up until really our generation, the Bible has been our holy book, and the Western culture was really about Christianity. And in the last several decades, we have had a great deal more influence of the New Thought movement, from the Transcendentalists, really starting with Emerson, to the Buddhists and the Hindus. And what we find is these religions are about loving our brothers and sisters around the planet, and there really is caring. And Muslims too, it's about loving your brothers and sisters. And so that the teachings of Jesus are a beautiful universal teaching. These universal spiritual truths are available through many religions and philosophies. And so what we do is we look at Jesus as a man. And this is an incredible individual who exemplified a level of awareness that we call consciousness. We call it the Christ consciousness. Jesus Christ. Christ is not his last name, but rather is Jesus the Christ. A man who reached a level of connectedness with God, with the infinite, which is, the Father and I are one. He who sees me sees the one who sent me. That which is within me is greater than I. And all of those kind of philosophies are absolutely beautiful, of an individual who is a teacher, who is a prototype, who is an example, who said, what I can do, you can do too. He said, I am able to do this, and so can you. He didn't say this was an exclusive thing. He said, I am the example. I'm the way. You reach this kind of level of consciousness, that is the way. That is the light. And so our belief is that he was a wonderful, magical, incredible spiritual teacher upon our planet, but he exemplified a level of Christ consciousness, or it could be called the Buddha consciousness or the Krishna consciousness. It's a level of connectedness with the infinite that one becomes a transparency, so they see the one, that life force, that all-knowing, infinite, omnipresent. Omnipresent means it is everywhere. So as much as going through Jesus can be going through you, if you can move yourself out of the way, if you can move your littleness out of the way, if you can move your fear out of the way, what happens is you become that transparency in which that higher vibration of spirit is able to shine, and you will raise the dead, you will heal the sick, or you'll tell a fig tree, curse it out, and it will die, because my word has power. And that is what we want to learn, is of course my word has power, because in the beginning was the word. Right? And there's a guy who knew how to use that word, which is possible for all of us to know how to use the word, or to use the consciousness to create the miracles in our life that are relevant to us today. So that's what I deal with. Yes. Michael. Oh, hey, you know what? Okay, well, Mark, and then we'll go back there. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see you.
Kind of something I've heard in that program too. Faith without works is dead. One of the steps in the program talks about sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. My question is, how do you decipher between self-will and God's will?
Good question. Okay. So, hey, congratulations on the program. We have many 12-step programs here at Seaside. Firm believer in that. And, we're that next step. We talk about that higher power. Well, what we get to do here is we put it out there, and we call it God, we call it life force, we call it love, we call it the intelligence. And what we do is we come to have that personal experience of that vibrancy, and it's not an anthropomorphic, something that's outside like a king saying, this is my will, Christian, you go teach the word. It's not like that for me. What it is for me is that as I become clearer to that presence, as I spend more time in my meditation, as I spend more time walking in the woods, sitting on the beach, contemplating the waves, I become more familiar with the sound of my little mind thinking, hey, this is a really good idea. Why don't you go do that, Christian? And the big voice, I'd love to say that it was a big booming voice, Christian, go do this. But it's a big voice that's in my being. There is a resonance in my soul that is just a deep knowingness. It is a grounding that when I know that there is a higher vision or will or dream, you can call it what you want, but when there is something greater than my little mind chattering, it supersedes every other of the conversations, and it may make no sense. It may seem impossible, but you know what? I have this courage that I've learned that I step through and I listen to this vision or this something, and for me it's cellular. For me it's a whole kind of experience. It's a full body experience. And so for the will of God, and I don't believe that God, and I also don't think God's like sitting up there, but rather that God, I don't believe God or the life force or the divine intelligence or that first cause or that first breath, that love or what have you, is going to have me go do something that doesn't resonate with me. I don't think God's going to tell me to go be an accountant if I hate math. It's just, we're not told to do that. What happens is I have found that there is a resonance inside my being when there is a vision greater than where I'm operating in my life right now that excites me. It starts popping my cells in my body that the energy and the courage and the trust and the faith begin to be called upon, because as I step into a bigger way, I call forth more of that which I am. And I can never know more of that which I am unless I call it forth into expression. And so a lot of times what I'm called to do is beyond my comfort zone or beyond my chatter of my little mind. But what I know is I've stepped through and that bridge is there across the abyss. What I know is God is there with everything that is needed to bring that about. And the only way I will come to know what that will really sounds like is if I'm willing to step into it and say, wow, that wasn't me. That was something more than I am. And so for me, spending time with Spirit and becoming familiar with what that sound is, only I can know what it sounds like inside of me. For some, it may have an accent. For others, it might not have any words at all. But what it sounds inside of you, you only begin to develop an assurance and a knowingness by saying yes to it, yes to it, yes to it. And then you'll come to realize it doesn't come with fear. It comes with the courage. It doesn't come with anxiety. It comes with a knowingness. And the more time you spend with it, whether it's in the trees or on the ocean, you know. And that's what happens is you become familiar with what it sounds like inside your field of awareness. So, there we go. All right, you got it.
In the world of human relationships that seem often fraught with difficulties,
they can, yes.
And love being, morphing in its definition, especially in today's society, technocentric and, text messaging and emails for everything, including breakups, makeups, whatever like that.
We are done.
Right. How does that somehow lead us?
Somehow what?
The failures in that area that seem prevalent in American culture, does that lead us to divine love? How do we integrate divine love in this whole picture?
The love, you're right, is the key. And I think everything will lead us to a greater love. And so in our day of high-tech, low-touch, we don't want to lose the concept of love. There's also a newer generation that is more has grown up with the connecting and the communication that kind of way and are able to find love. But nothing, for me, will ever replace the touch and the eye-to-eye kind of contact. But, if all of a sudden what has happened is the ability to communicate with more people, touch more individuals, love more people, express your heart and soul and touch more people, then all of a sudden we have a beautiful new tool in an era that was not available to us a generation ago. And so And breakups happen whether it's online or face-to-face, as well as hookups. And it's just there's more options today. And I think as one begins to evolve as a species, there will continue to be more opportunities for coming together and going apart. But what you brought up was that divine love, I believe, is that vibration and that connection that continues to transcend the modality of communication. And so as one begins to work with love and become familiar with that vibration of love, what I think is valuable is that they allow the love to be the call that moves one forward into relationship or into creativity or into self-expression, as opposed to using the pain, as opposed to using abuse, as opposed to using all sorts of motivators. I think the more that people are able to experience what love is and can be, they become familiar with it. And oftentimes individuals who are stuck in an environment that was abusive or not right really had no other opportunity to know what love was other than the abuse or the challenge that was there. What is happening through the different screens is more options become available and say, you know what's going on behind these doors is not love. What's going on behind these doors is wrong. And so what I'm going to do is to step out and begin to explore the greater possibilities. And it's just interesting. All of it seems to be leading people to discover the experience of love. And so maybe the first touch may be on a screen, but it will never replace the physical touch. And so it is being with somebody in a way that is empowering, that is honoring, that is caring, and understanding is the ultimate. And there's different ways of its delivery, but heart to heart is definitely high on my list. So, thank you. Marshall, red, wine, blue. All right.
So what is enlightenment for you?
It's when the lights go on and everything's good. Enlightenment for me. What's the meaning of life? For me, when I am in the light, there's just a deep sense of comfort, and there's a deep sense of knowing. And what's interesting is when I'm in that place, I have a very strong clarity of whatever questions I bring to that place. And it's so clear that I think it's natural and normal that I don't even need to write it down because I'll always remember it. But when I step out of that elevated perspective of the mountaintop view, what is it becomes apparent is that I was in a place that was very high, that I'm no longer there. But when I'm there, it's not like I am in this elevated place. It's just all very natural and normal. And so when I'm in the enlightenment, things move with an ease and a grace and an assurance. And you can get to a place where there is no relevance in your world, whether it's nirvana, you just blissed out. But what good are you? And so for me to be enlightenment and be in motion is very valuable. They talk about the psychic in a jungle, and they're aware that there's a tiger about to pounce and eat them, and they use that to remove themselves from that danger. Where someone who is just in that nirvanic bliss and they're one with all things, that's great. And the lion jumps or the tiger jumps, pounces, eats them, and they don't care. But what value is that? So for me, with enlightenment is to be able to integrate this greater connection with the source into walking in this world in which I am functioning. And so for me, that's kind of differentiation between just being out there in a zone and of really no use. I mean, I've been to the mountaintop and I will always know what was there, but how can I integrate it into the world that I walk, whether it's in my life, whether it is social justice, whether it is in the challenge within a relationship or in the career, to be able to bring that light, to be in the light, to be able to bring it to wherever I'm at, to take the deeper knowingness or this expanded awareness into what's going on in my world is where the value lies for me. So,
Christian?
Hey. Here we go. Hey, Patty.
So we have 2 more months for Intel election, and it seems like things continue to at least appear to be more and more polarized and more hatred and finger pointing. And can you just speak about spiritually how we might be looking at this next couple of months?
Pray. Hello. It's interesting. A true democracy means you have choice. And sometimes, it appears you don't. I mean, there is the financing that supports basically, two parties. But what I do want to remind us that we do have choice. That, there are other parties. You have libertarians, you've got the Green Party, and so that we do have choice, and sometimes, you get focused that it's either this or that, and it's controlled by the dollars behind it, and the behaviors of the individuals may not be in alignment with what we're thinking. And I've got to recognize that it's a representation of the consciousness of our country, that where we're at and where we are. If it's true at the individual level, it's true at a country level. And so what's important for me is to pray and to know that we have been praying, for things to move in a direction where there is greater honest representation of the people as opposed to the financial world. And possibly, not possibly, I believe that what we're going through is an opportunity to see that we're out of balance from that at this point, that it's not really operating at the level of intention in which we have been led to believe that it can be. And so things need to change for that true representation and true choice to be made. And this is part of what the process looks like. So in the meantime, I've got to continue to love. I've got to continue to vote. I've got to continue to pray. And I got to continue to speak my word and make a difference where I can in my life and in my world. And know that you got other party choices. You can write people in that you want, and that we really do live in a democracy. It's just that some of the controlling element has us believe these are the only choices, when that is not the only choices there are. That is what is being put in our face, and that is what we are being fed. But there is so much more that is available, that whether you want to work it locally or nationally or globally, the choice is ours. And so rather than to give in to the distraught or the disheartening experience of the next couple months of advertising and rhetoric that is going on, what I'm going to do is hold a higher vision for our country and realize that we are in the process of getting there. And one of the leaders that gets elected all of a sudden may be the conduit for that to happen beyond whatever path they took to get there. And they may just be the stepping stone to what is next. But I am not going to give in to the fear or the concern, but rather I'm going to hold on to what's true within my heart and continue to speak that, and know that we are moving in the direction in which there is the honest representation of the people that are within our country. And I need not attack or make wrong or join in the disparaging remarks of our system, of the politics, but rather what I am going to do is hold a higher light of the possibility that is available for a people that unite together. Because when a people unite, the few that are in control no longer have control. And so it's time for the people to stand up and speak. That's what I believe. So. Last one right there. Okay.
Reverend,
we'll go here, then there. Okay.
Could you speak to the difference or similarity between the Science of Mind and the Course of Miracles? Specifically, this one thought has always amused me, is somewhere in the Course of Miracles there is the statement that your thoughts are meaningless. And for some reason I love that. But at the same time, we're using a lot of words to create our future.
Right.
So, and I enjoy the dissonance between those two, but I thought since you're answering questions, this would be a good time to see.
A couple of things. One is the Course in Miracles was channeled, like boom, I was moved from on high. And Ernest Holmes, who brought together the science of mind, said this was not channeled or nor is it a special revelation. It's more of a compilation. I took this common thread of truth that seemed to weave itself through the great teachings, and I dropped the dogmas, the creeds, and the rules and say, hey, this seems to be a common, and we call them universal spiritual principles. And so those universal spiritual principles will show up in things like the Course in Miracles, whether it was channeled from the other dimensions or not. Now, the thing about thoughts are irrelevant, I think, was the meaningless. So the other point I want to show, in New Thought movement or metaphysics, things are very paradoxical. And it's this, and it's also that, which is very screwy for our linear, logical mind. How can it be yin and yang? But it's the totality of it all. And so, yes, my thoughts are not really going to be influencing the infinite intelligence that guides the universe and the galaxies forever and ever. Amen. So I'm going to open up to the will of that higher expression that is to move through me. So I'm guided by that, and so I can begin to articulate the higher perspective that is here. But, as I begin to cast a vibration through an affirmative there is a responsiveness in the cause and effect. Is that the ultimate power? No. But, is there a power in the Word? Yes. In the beginning was the Word. And so we're operating in a responsive field that responds to the spoken word or to the thought and consciousness of the vibration that is cast. So I want to come from the highest place that is possible. Are my words really influencing God? No. Is this world of cause and effect I'm operating in responsive? Yes. Do I want to control things? Well, if I have to keep those plates spinning forever, I'm going to exhaust myself, so it's a lot easier to go with the flow. So the words aren't really as valuable as if I am going with the flow, because if it's my words that are trying to hold the universe together, or at least my world together, I'm going to exhaust myself, and that's crazy. So the words are really meaningless if I can just surrender to the truth it absolutely is. So is it this or is it that? Well, maybe it's a little of both, but it's not really this and it's not really that. It's all of it. So I like to disparage things myself. But that's what's valuable about classes is we can come in and talk about these things. So I'm not sharing the gospel. That's the beauty of religious science, is that it's a philosophy that we can explore ideas that is not necessarily this and it's not necessarily that. But maybe it's a slice, each a little slice of a pie that creates the totality of it all. And so the beauty of the classes is that we can explore ideas. So thank you for that. Okay, last question, since you had the mic before.
All right. My name is Celeste.
Hey, Celeste.
And I have brought two lovely ladies from Japan. They're college students, and one is Buddhist, and she asked me if they could come to a Christian church. And, of course, this is Christian's church. And
good job, Celeste.
Immediately to bring them. And I just wonder if you had a couple of words to say to them and to us.
Sure. It was, I was blessed to spend some time with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, in his home in Cloud Ganj, Dharamsala. And it was interesting because Buddhists don't believe in God. But when we asked His Holiness, but what he doesn't believe in is the Western concept of an anthropomorphic God sitting in the cloud judging that. But when we talked about a life force and the love and the order and the creative process and the compassion and the kindness and the caring as God, he said, oh yeah, I believe in that. Yeah. And so what happens a lot of times is our jargon or our wording gets in the way. So here is a deep philosophy of Buddhism, which I love, and spent time in Tibet and just love the people and the teaching, and come to recognize there is that commonality of that essence of spirit, of life force, and cause and effect, and karma, which put out is what comes back to you. And so when I talk with individuals of other faiths, find the connecting factors of that. And usually it's the dogmas, the rules, the creeds, and the regulations that get in the way, that divide as opposed to unite. So Buddhism is a beautiful philosophy where if you want to learn to meditate, that's the one I recommend for sure. So, good. Thank you for asking. And welcome from Japan. Okay, well, hey, I can do this all day. And if you've got more questions, you know where to find me.
Such a long way home from where you have been. And what will it take to bring you back again? And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Can you hear the sound, the whisper in your soul that calls you back to where you belong? And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Behold the love. Behold the light in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. In your mind, in your heart, in your soul. In your mind, in your heart, in your soul. And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.